Hi there, girls and boys. How are you? And happy Wednesday. Hope you're having a really great week. I was in school yesterday, would you believe it or not? And I was able to go into our classroom and tidy different bits and pieces up, stick things in books, make sure that all your books are ready for you when you need them, so that you can have a look at all the fantastic work you've been doing over the course of P4. Now, I know, girls and boys, that maybe at this stage when it comes to self-isolating, maybe things are getting a little bit boring, etc. But do not worry, girls and boys, because very soon you will have a brand new home learning pack. There's been a newsletter being put onto our school website that explains everything about that, and that should be up today, and how you can grab your new home learning pack on the 4th of May. Now, when that comes out, girls and boys, I'm going to post a video to this channel explaining different things about the pack, and I'll be doing other videos as well to do with our brand new topic, which is houses and homes. So I'm sure you'll be really excited to do that. Now, I have been hearing through the grapevine about different girls and boys in our class and how they've been painting beautiful rainbows. In fact, I've heard that Isaac has been doing a fantastic rainbow that has lights around it. How amazing is that? Well done, Isaac. And I've also heard down the grapevine as well that some of you have been setting up your own shops at home. How amazing. Well done, you. I mean, I have to say that the creativity that's clearly happening at home, it is just absolutely incredible. And I am so, so proud of you, girls and boys, for that. Now I'm going to talk about a few exciting things at the end of this video, but until then, it's over to chapter 13.
Chapter 13, Unfortunate Conclusions. With his mouth shut tight and his feet moving as fast as thoughts could make them, Milo ran all the way back to the car. There was great excitement when he arrived, as Talk raced happily down the road to greet him. The humbug, personally, accepted all congratulations from the crowd. "Where is the sound?" someone hastily scribbled on the blackboard, and they all waited anxiously for the reply. Milo caught his breath, picked up the chalk, and explained simply, "It's on the tip of my tongue." Several people excitedly threw their hands into the air. Some shouted what would have been a loud hurrah, and the rest pushed the heavy cannon into place. They aimed it directly at the thickest part of the fortress wall and packed it full of gunpowder. Milo stood on tiptoe, leaned over the cannon's mouth, and parted his lips. The small sound dropped silently to the bottom, and everything was ready. In another moment the fuse was lit and sputtering. "I hope no one gets hurt," thought Milo, and, before he had time to think again, an immense cloud of grey and white smoke leaped from the gun, and along with it, so softly that it was hardly heard, came the sound of "but." It flew towards the wall for several seconds in a high, lazy arc, and then struck ever so lightly just to the right of the big door. For an instant there was an ominous stillness, quieter and more silent than ever before, as if even the air was holding its breath. And then, almost immediately, there was a blasting, roaring, thundering smash, followed by a crushing, shattering, bursting crash, as every stone in the fortress came toppling to the ground, and the vaults burst open, spilling the sounds of history into the wind. Every sound that had ever been uttered or made, from way back to when there was none, to way up when there were too many, came hurtling out of the debris in a way that sounded as though everyone in the world was laughing, whistling, shouting, crying, singing, whispering, humming, screaming, coughing and sneezing, all at the same time. There were bits of old speeches floating about, as well as recited lessons, gunshots from old wars, babies' cries, motor horns, waterfalls, electric fans, galloping horses, and a great deal of everything else. For a while there was a total of deafening confusion, and then Almost as quickly as they'd come, all the old signs disappeared over the hill in search of their own new freedom, and things were normal again. The people quickly went about their busy, talkative business, and as the smoke and dust cleared, only Milo, Talk and the Humbug noticed the soundkeeper sitting disconsolately on a pile of rubble. "I'm terribly sorry," said Milo sympathetically, as the three of them went to console her. "But we had to do it," added Talk, sniffing around the ruins. "What a terrible mess," observed the Humbug, with his knack of saying exactly the wrong thing. The soundkeeper looked around with an expression of unrelieved sadness on her unhappy face. "It will take years to collect all those sounds again," she sobbed, "and even longer to put them back in a proper order. But it's all my fault, for you can't improve sound by having only silence. The problem is to use each at the proper time." As she spoke, the familiar and unmistakable squinch-squanch of the din's heavy footsteps could be heard plodding over the hill, and when he finally appeared, he was dragging an incredibly large sack behind him. "Can anyone use these signs?" he puffed, mopping his forehead. "They all came over the hill at once, and none of them are awful enough for me." The soundkeeper peered into the sack, and there were all the sounds which had burst from the vaults. "How nice of you to return them," she cried happily. "You and the doctor must come by for an evening of beautiful music when my fortress is repaired." The thought of it so horrified the din that he excused himself immediately and dashed off down the road in a great panic. "I hope I haven't offended him," she said with some concern. "Oh, he only likes unpleasant sounds," volunteered Talk. Yes," she sighed. "I keep forgetting that many people do. But I suppose they are necessary, for you'd never really know how pleasant one was unless you knew how unpleasant it wasn't." She paused for a moment and then continued. "Oh, if only Rhyme and Reason were here, I'm sure things would improve." "That's why we're going to rescue them," said Milo proudly. "What a long, hard journey that will be. You'll need some nourishment," she cried, handing Milo a small brown package, neatly wrapped and tied with string. "Now, remember, they're not for eating, but for listening, because you'll often be hungry for sounds as well as food. Here are street noises at night, train whistles a long way off, dry leaves burning, busy department stores crunching toast, creaking bed springs, and, of course, all kinds of laughter. There's a little of each, and in far-off lonely places I think you'll be glad to have them." "I'm sure we will," replied Milo gratefully. "Just take this road to the sea and turn left," she told them. "You'll soon be in Digitopolis." And almost before she had finished, they had said goodbye and left the valley behind them. The shoreline was peaceful and flat, and the calm sea bumped it playfully along the sandy beach. In the distance, a beautiful island covered with palm trees and flowers beckoned invitingly from the sparkling water. "Nothing can possibly go wrong now," cried the Humbug happily, and, as soon as he'd said it, he leaped from the car as if struck by a pin and sailed all the way to the little island. "And we'll have plenty of time," answered Talk, who hadn't noticed that the Humbug was missing, and he too suddenly leaped into the air and disappeared. "It certainly couldn't be a nicer day," agreed Milo, who was too busy looking at the road to see that the others had gone, and in a split second he was gone also. He landed next to Talk and the terrified Humbug on the tiny island, which now looked completely different. Instead of palms and flowers, there was only rocks and the twisted stumps of long dead trees. It certainly didn't seem like the same place they had seen from the road. "Pardon me," said Milo to the first man he saw. "Can you tell me where I am?" "Pardon me," replied the man. "Can you tell me who I am?" The man was dressed in a shaggy tweed jacket and breeches with long woolen stockings, and a cap that had a peak both front and back, and he seemed to be as confused as well. You must know who you are, said Milo impatiently. You must know who you are, he replied with equal annoyance. Oh dear, this is going to be difficult, Milo whispered to Talk. I wonder if we can help him. They conferred for a few minutes, and finally the bug looked up and said, Can you describe yourself? Oh, yes, indeed, the man replied happily. I'm as tall as can be. And he grew straight up until all that could be seen of him were his shoes and stockings, and I'm as short as can be. And he shrank down to the size of a pebble. I'm as generous as can be, he said, handing each of them a large red apple. And I'm as selfish as can be, he snarled, grabbing them back again. I'm as strong as can be, he roared, lifting an enormous boulder over his head. And I'm as weak as can be, he gasped, staggering under the weight of his hat. I'm as smart as can be. And I'm as stupid as can be, he admitted, putting both feet in one shoe. I'm as graceful as can be, he hummed, balancing on one toe. And I'm as clumsy as can be, he cried, sticking his thumb in his eye. I'm as fast as can be, he announced, running round the island twice in no time at all. And I'm as slow as can be, he complained, waving goodbye to a snail. Is that any help to you? Once again they conferred in busy whispers until all three of them agreed. It's really very simple, said the humbug, twirling his cane. If everything you say is true, added Talk, then without a doubt, Milo concluded brightly, you must be Canby. Of course, yes, of course I am. Why didn't I think of that? I'm as happy as can be. Then he quickly sat down, put his head in his hands and sighed, but I'm also as sad as can be. Now, will you tell me where we are? Asked Talk, as he looked around the desolate island. To be sure, said Canby. You're on the island of Conclusions. Make yourself at home. You're apt to be here for some time. But how did we get here? Asked Milo, who was still a bit puzzled by being there at all. You jumped, of course, explained Canby. That's the way nearly everyone gets here. It's really quite simple. Every time you decide something without having a good reason, you jump to conclusions, whether you like it or not. It's such an easy trip to make that I've been here hundreds of times. But this is such an unpleasant-looking place, Milo remarked. Yes, that's true, admitted Canby. It does look much better from a distance. As he spoke, at least 8 or 9 more people sailed onto the island from every direction possible. Well, I'm going to jump straight back, announced the humbug, who took 2 or 3 practice bounces, leaped as far as he could, and landed in a heap 2 feet away. That won't do at all, scolded Canby, helping him to his feet. You can never jump away from conclusions. Getting back is not so easy. That's why we are so terribly crowded here. That was certainly the truth, for all along the bleak shore and clustered on the rocks for as far as anyone could see were enormous crowds of people, all sadly looking out to sea. Isn't there even a boat? Asked Milo, anxious to get on with his trip. Oh no, replied Canby, shaking his head. The only way back is to swim, and that's a very long and very hard way. I don't like getting wet, moaned the unhappy bug, and he shuddered at the thought. Neither do they, said Canby sadly. That's what keeps them here. But I wouldn't worry too much about it, for you can swim all day in the sea of knowledge and still come out completely dry. Most people do. But you must excuse me now. I have to greet the new arrivals. As you know, I'm as friendly as can be. Over the humbug's strenuous objections, Milo and Talk decided to swim, and, protesting loudly, the bug was dragged along with them towards the sea. Canby hurried off to answer more questions, and the last thing he heard was, Pardon me, can you tell me who I am? They swam and swam for what seemed like hours, and only Talk's firm encouragement kept Milo struggling through icy water. At last they reached the shore, thoroughly exhausted, and except for the bug, completely soaked. That wasn't bad at all, said the humbug, straightening his tie and brushing himself off. I must visit there more often. I'm sure you will, gasped Milo, but from now on I'm going to have a very good reason before I make up my mind about anything. You can lose too much time jumping to conclusions. The car was just where they'd left it, and in a moment they were on their way again as the road turned away from the sea and began its long climb into the mountains. The warm sun and billowy breezes dried them out as they went. I hope we reach Dictionopolis soon, said Milo, thinking of the breakfast they hadn't eaten. I wonder how far it is. And that's the end of chapter 13. Hope you enjoyed it. And I wonder, have you ever jumped to conclusions? It certainly can waste a whole lot of your time. Have a think about it.
And that is the end of chapter 13. I really hope you enjoyed that, girls and boys. Now, I hope that you're continuing to enjoy this sunshine. Isn't it absolutely brilliant? As you can see, I've even forgotten to take my sunglasses off because I've been out on my daily exercise, having a nice walk around the area. And I hope that you've been having a lot of chances as well to go out and have a good walk around your area as well and just keep up good exercise. And maybe some of you are exercising every morning with Joe Wicks. I know I tried that a few times as well. And you know what? I need to get more on top of that as well and set that into my routine. Now, next week, I am going to be posting a video that explains an art activity that you can do at home. It's an art activity that I was hoping we were going to do in school, but we're not going to get that opportunity to do that. So I thought, you know what, I'll hand it over to you girls and boys at home and see how it turns out. So stay tuned next week for a little bonus video where I explain the art activity. Well, girls and boys, I'll see you again on Friday. And until then, I'm going to hand you over to the joke of the day.
Why did the pupil eat his homework? Because his teacher told him it was a piece of cake.